सिद्धिविनायकमूर्ति की जय। जानकीकान्तस्मरणं जय जय राम राम। गोपिका जीवनस्मरणं गोविंद गोविंद। हर हर नमः पार्वतीपतये हर हर महादेव। श्री सद्गुरुस्वामिनः जय। आञ्जनेयस्वामिनः जय। सदा बालरूपापि विघ्नाद्रिहन्त्री महादन्तिवक्त्रापि पञ्चास्यमान्या विधीन्द्रारिमृग्या गणेशाभिधामे विधत्तां श्रियं कापि कल्याणमूर्तिः श्यामा काचन चन्द्रिका त्रिभुवने पुण्यात्मनामानने सीमा शून्यकवित्ववर्षजननी याः कापि कादम्बिनी महारारातिमनोविमोहनविधौ काचित्तमः कन्दली कामाक्ष्याः करुणाकटाक्षलहरी कामाय मे कल्पतां शारदा शारदाम्भोजवदना वदनाम्बुजे सर्वदा सर्वदास्माकं सन्निधिं सन्निधिं क्रियात्। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादशङ्करं लोकशङ्करं। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। अपारकरुणासिन्धुं ज्ञानदं शान्तरूपिणं श्रीचन्द्रशेखरगुरुं प्रणमामि मुदान्वहं। यदीयाङ्घ्रिचिन्ता सुपूता च वाणी यदीयं स्वरूपं सदा ध्यानयोग्यं तमेवेन्दुचूडाख्यदिव्यावतारं मनोवाक्शरीरैः गुरुश्रेष्ठमीडे सदात्मध्याननिरतं विषयेभ्यः पराङ्मुखं नौमि शास्त्रेषु निष्णातं चन्द्रशेखरभारतीं दोर्भिर्युक्ता चतुर्भिः स्फटिकमणिमयीम् अक्षमालां दधाना हस्ते नैकेन पद्मं सितमपि च शुकं पुस्तकं चापरेण भासा कुन्देन्दुशङ्खस्फटिकमणिनिभा भासमाना असमाना सा मे वाग्देवतेयं निवसतु वदने सर्वदा सुप्रसन्ना। कूजन्तं राम रामेति मधुरं मधुराक्षरम् आरुह्य कविताशाखां वन्दे वाल्मीकिकोकिलं। वाल्मीकेः मुनिसिंहस्य कवितावनचारिणः शृण्वन् रामकथानादं को न याति परां गतिं। यः पिबन् सततं रामचरितामृतसागरम् अतृप्तः तं मुनिं वन्दे प्राचेतसमकल्मषम्। आञ्जनेयमतिपाटलाननं काञ्चनाद्रिकमनीयविग्रहं पारिजाततरुमूलवासिनं भावयामि पवमाननन्दनं। वैदेहीसहितं सुरद्रुमतदे हैमे महामण्टपे मध्ये पुष्पकम् आसने मणिमये वीरासने सुस्थितम्। अग्रे वाचयति प्रभञ्जनसुते तत्त्वं मुनिभ्यः परं व्याख्यान्तं भरदादिभिः परिवृतं। रामं भजे श्यामलं नमोऽस्तु रामाय सलक्ष्मणाय देहेव्यै च तस्यै जनकात्मजायै। नमोऽस्तु रुद्रेन्द्रयमानिदेभ्यः नमोऽस्तु चन्द्रार्कमरुद्गणेभ्यः। पीताम्बरं करविराजितशङ्खचक्रकौमोदकी सरसिजं करुणासमुद्रं राधासहायम् अतिसुन्दरमन्दहासं वातालयेश मनिशं हृदि भावयामि योऽन्तः प्रविश्य मम वाचमिमां प्रसुप्तां सञ्जीवयति अखिलशक्तिधरस्वधाम्ना अन्यांश्च हस्तचरणश्रवणत्वगादीनि प्राणान् नमो भगवते पुरुषाय तुभ्यं श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणोक्तधर्मघोषणनिस्तुलं भक्तवात्सल्यजलधिं पूर्णानुग्रहकारिणम् उपन्यासमहारत्नम् अज्ञातकटुभाषणम् अनन्तरामयोगीन्द्रं मद्गुरुं श्रेयसे भजे मूहुकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवं भक्तवात्सल्यजलधेः परमानन्दरूपिणः अस्मदाचार्यराजस्य प्रपन्नोऽस्मि पदाम्बुजं त्र्यम्बकपुराधीशं गणाधिपसमन्वितं गजारूढमहं वन्दे शास्तारं कुलदैवतं विराजन्तं त्रिनयने वल्लीसेनापतिं प्रभुं वाञ्छितार्थप्रदं वन्दे षण्मुखं कुलदैवतं बुद्धिर्बलं यशो धैर्यं निर्भयत्वमरोगता अजाड्यं वाक्पटुत्वञ्च हनुमत्स्मरणात् भवेत् அஞ்சிலே ஒன்று பெற்றான் அஞ்சிலே ஒன்றைத்தாவி அஞ்சிலே ஒன்றாராக ஆரியற்காக ஏகி அஞ்சிலே ஒன்று பெற்ற அணங்கை கண்டு அயலாரூரில் அஞ்சிலே ஒன்றை வைத்தான் அவன் நம்மை அடித்து காப்பான் ஊனிடைச் சுவர் வைத்து கண்பு தூண்ணாட்டி உரோமம் மேய்ந்து 9 வாசல் தானுடை குரம்பை பிரியும் போது உந்தல் சரணமே சரணம் என்றிருந்தேன் தேனுடை கமலத்திரிவினுக்கரசே திரைஹி குள்மா நெடுங்கடல் கிடந்தாய் நானுடை தவத்தால் திருவடி அடைந்தேன் நைமிஷாரண்யத்துளிந்தாய் ஸ்ரீஹரயே நமः சீதாலக்ஷ்மணபரதசத்ருக்ன ஹனுமத் சமேத ஸ்ரீராமச்சந்திராய பரபிரம்மணே நமः गुरुपवनपुरेशाय नमः सद्गुरुचरणारविन्दाभ्यां नमः वाग्देव्यै नमः ओं हनुमते नमः स्वस्त्यस्तु समस्तसन्मङ्गलानि सन्तु समस्तैश्वर्यप्राप्तिरस्तु श्लोकैकदेशश्रवणपठनमात्रेण वक्तुश्च श्रोतॄणां धर्मादिनिखिलपुरुषार्थ सिद्धिप्रदे समस्तकलिकल्मषापनोतनपटुतरे श्रीमद् रामायणे श्री रामगुणानुवर्णन अनुभवे अद्य वर्तमानकथाप्रसङ्गः पूर्वकथासङ्ग्रहश्च श्रीहरये नमः। May the benign grace of the Lord and the benedictions of our Gurus inspire and guide us as we continue the process of sanctifying ourselves in the stream of his Gunanubhava. In yesterday's discourse, we concluded with the quality of Satyanishta, Dharmagyaha Satyasandascha Prajanancha Hiterataha. Over the last 2 days, we have been seeing some of the virtues that Narada recounted to Valmiki. It is interesting to note that the very first word, the very first phrase used is Ikshvaku Vamsha Prabhavaha. We also saw on the first day how Kalidasa, these 16 great qualities of the kings who are born in this solar race. So, there is a legacy of virtue which has been passed on to the Lord. That would be the normal way of putting it. In the case of the Lord, perhaps we should rephrase the whole thing and say, he chose to be incarnated in the solar dynasty because it was a repository of virtue. It is not as if he inherited those virtues from his forefathers. He was born, he chose to manifest himself because this particular race was known for its virtue. Ikshvakumsha Prabhavaha. I am not using this word casually. It is used advisedly because we have got the authority of Valmiki to say so. He says, after the completion of the Ashwamedha and the Putrakamishti Yagas, the Lord chose Dasharatha as his father. Pitaram Rochagamasa Rajanam Dasharatham. Pitaram Rochagamasa Raja Dasharatha was chosen as the father of the Lord in his incarnation as Sri Rama. Pitaram Rochagamasa Tada Dasharatham Nripam. That is the sloka. To come back to the virtue where we left off yesterday, Dharmagyaha Satyasandascha Prajanancha Hiterataha. This is one very supreme quality which is indispensable for any king to be called a king worth his name. He was always interested in the hita, in what was wholesome and good for his subjects. As I said earlier, a day or two earlier, there are two things. One is priya, the other is hita. That which is present is priya. That which is wholesome is hita. Even in the matter of food, that which is palatable is not necessarily wholesome. More often than not, that which is palatable is not wholesome. You like all kinds of junk food. They immediately pander to the taste, but ultimately they affect the health. Those foods which are really good for our health, we do not really relish them. Those foods have to be pushed down our throats right from the time when we were children to the time when we are senior citizens. The same attitude continues. So what is wholesome is not necessarily present. What is present is not necessarily wholesome. There is only one exception to this general rule. The Lord and His glory, they are very much relishable. They are delectable when they are heard. At the same time, they are wholesome for our spiritual uplift. That is why Shrotra Manobhiram, that is how Shukacharya describes the glory of the Lord in the Dashamaskanda of the Srimad Bhagavata. While addressing and requesting Shri Shuka, Parikshit says the Shrotra Manobhirama. Shrotram is ear, Manas is the mind. Normally that which appeals to the ear will not stay back in the mind. That which stays back in the mind is always difficult to digest and hear at the time it is uttered. The glories of the Lord are the exception. They are very much relishable, they are delectable to hear when they are heard, and they leave a permanent imprint in the mind which stays back several decades after they were first heard. That is the Shrotra Manobhirama. Except for this one exception. All the things are generally, you can say, in the phraseography of the Kathopanishad, you can say that that which is prayas is not shreyas, and that which is shreyas is not prayas. Shreyas, in a nutshell, is knowledge of the Atma. Any other happiness in the world, whether it is the infinitesimal, tiniest so-called pleasure of a unicellular organism like the amoeba, or the almost infinite happiness of the Chaturmukha Brahma, all these happiness from the lowest grade to the highest grade, those happinesses which can be expressed in words, those happinesses which have been listed in a graded scale in the Taittiriya Upanishad, they are all to be categorized under the category of prayas. Shreyas is the Atma, the Shuddha Chaitanya, which is the real self of each and every creature. So, Shreyas is not prayas, prayas is not Shreyas. They are mutually exclusive. Prajanam cha hite rataha. This is a very important lesson for people who want to not merely be political leaders, but also those who want to be remembered as statesmen of their time. They must concentrate on what is good for the subjects, not what is popular. Populism is not advocated. Prajanam cha hite rataha. The measures that a king takes must be conducive to the long-term welfare and intrinsic welfare of the subjects. Prajanam cha hite rataha. Yashasvi jnana sampannaha Shuchi Vashyaha Samadhima Yashasvi. Yashas is pure fame, untainted by any of the materialistic considerations or the considerations of the outside world, a fame which lasts forever. That is Yashas. The Veda says Indra is cited as an example of this Yashas. Indra iva yashasvi bhavati. But the Ramayana, which is a recreation of the great principles and the great tattvas expounded by the Vedas. Veda prachera sadasita sakshat Ramayana atmana. Veda itself reincarnated as Ramayana when the Paramapurusha of the Vedas, the Veda Vedya, one who is to be known by the Vedas, when he incarnated as Sri Rama, the Vedas themselves they reincarnated as Ramayana. Ramayana puts it one step ahead. Indra Yashasvi Bhavati may be the Vedic statement, but if you want to improve upon it, you should say Rama Yashasvi Bhavati. So Yashasvi Jnana Sampanna. Incidentally, I am reminded of another word. There is a word called Mahanubhava. Two people, they get this appellation in the Valmiki Ramayana. Dasharatha. Pravivyate chapi Mahanubhavaha. The Ayodhya Kanda. Anjaneya is also called Mahanubhava. Manassamadaya Mahanubhavaha Jakamalanka Manasa Manasvi. If these people can be called Mahanubhavas, surely the Lord Himself must be worthy of the appellation. And perhaps Valmiki did not say, I cannot recollect immediately a sloka which addresses Rama as Mahanubhava in the Ramayana to the best of my little knowledge. Perhaps one would have to give an extensive reading of the Ramayana to conclusively say whether he has been hailed as Mahanubhava or not. Why did Valmiki not refer to Rama as a Mahanubhava? Perhaps he felt that it is a self-evident truth which did not require reiteration at all. It is so evident, you don't have to tell it. Something like two ladies discussing the menu in their respective homes. Somebody said, I have prepared sambar. Somebody said, I have prepared this kuttu or rasam or some etc. etc. Nobody ever says, I have prepared rice. It is taken for granted. It is a given. Rice and curd or buttermilk is a given. You don't say, there's no effort. What is your contribution to transforming milk into buttermilk? You simply allow it to ferment, it becomes buttermilk, that's all. There is no special effort involved in that. So it is taken as a given. Likewise, perhaps at the time of Valmiki, the general consensus in the entire world was that if at all there is a person who can really claim to be a Mahanubhava, he is Rama and Rama alone. It was so self-evident that Valmiki did not consider necessary to specifically address Rama as Mahanubhava in the entire course of his epic over 24,000 slokas. But that same Valmiki, when he reincarnated as Tyagaraja Swamigal in the Kali Yuga, perhaps he felt people of Treta Yuga would have understood this, but the self-evident truth has to be reiterated in the Kali Yuga. So therefore, in this Atana Kirtana, he addressed Rama as Rara Mahanubhava. Mahanubhava, the one who is absolutely pure from conception to death, and one whose fame has spread across the entire universe. He alone deserves the appellation of Mahanubhava. So Yashasvi, Rama was a Yashasvi. He was also a Mahanubhava, though it is not stated so in this particular sloka. Yashasvi Jnana Sampannaha Shuchigi Vashyaha Samadhima. Why the word Mahanubhava cropped up is because of this. There are two words in this particular half sloka. One is Yashasvi, the other one is Shuchigi. Shuchigi means pure, beyond taint, absolutely untainted, the very pinnacle of purity, Shuchigi. You cannot find another person who is as pure, who is also as purifying as Rama. There are two things. One is Shuchigi, the other is one word called Pavitra. There is another word called Pavana. Pavitra is pure. Pavana is that which purifies. Rama is both pure as well as sanctifying. He is both sacred as well as sanctifying. He is both pure as well as purifying. Therefore, he is absolutely pure. He is absolutely pure because I will give you one very wonderful illustration of this. We are all born because of the Grihasthashrama dharma practiced by our parents. Otherwise, no creature will be born in this entire world. Grihasthashrama is the name which we give for human beings. We don't give that word for animals and other creatures, but human beings, because they are governed by a dharma, you say that out of Grihasthashrama progeny is born. But this kind of dampatya also was not necessary for the incarnation of Rama. He was born out of the imbibing of the divine payasa, not because of the dampatya of Dasharatha and Kausalya. He was born because of the imbibing of the divine payasa. So even that slightest taint of Grihasthashrama dharma did not touch him. He was pure from conception to his Vaikuntha Arohana. That is why Shuchihi, when you take this purity along with the yashas, the pure fame which not only extended across the entire universe, traversing so many worlds, it has also traversed the time. That yashas, that fame, stays till today. It will stay till the stars shines, till the sun rises, till the moon rises, till the world exists, this fame will remain. This is the word, the pledge of Brahma to Valmiki. At the time of motivating him to write the Ramayana, Brahma said, Yavat stasyanti gireyaha Saritascha mahitale tavat Ramayana gata lokeshu pracharishyati. Yavat Ramayana gata tvatkruta pracharishyati tavat urdvam adaschatvam mallokeshu nivatsyasi. This is the exact sloka in the Balakanda. So long as the sun and the moon, the stars and the oceans and the rivers, so long as the entire creation subsists in this world, the Ramayana will shine forever and ever. This is the normal meaning of the sloka. Several decades back, when I was speaking on the Ramayana at a particular place, somewhere in Chennai only, it was Triplicane if I remember right. A great scholar came there. I requested him to address the audience for a few minutes and bless us. During the course of his small talk for a few minutes, he gave a wonderful new meaning for this particular sloka, approaching it from a different dimension. As we know, the rules of poetry are different from the rules of prose. In prose, there is a different syntax which has got to be followed. There is a way, there is an order in which the subject and the object and the predicate have to be arranged to form a sentence. The same rule does not apply in the case of poetry. The subject or the object may come before, it may come after. The words may not be in a prosodical order, but that is the license given for poetry. So long as the poetic meter and the requirements of the meter are met, there is no other consideration. Grammatically, it should be correct. That goes without saying. But the necessity to arrange in the prose order does not exist for poetry. Otherwise, there is no difference between prose and poetry at all. So, this word yavat and tavat, if you interchange them in this sloka, you will get a wonderful, beautiful meaning. Yavat Ramayana katha lokeshu pracharishyati tavat stasyanti gireha saritascha mahitale. So long as the glory of Rama is sung in this world, so long as the Ramayana is recited, heard and worshipped in this world, only till such time the sun will rise in the east, the moon will rise, the stars will sparkle, and the oceans and the rivers and all the various aspects of creation will continue to exist. In other words, the moment you forget Rama, the world will cease to exist. It will be the nemesis of the world as we know today. This is the plighted word of Brahma given to Valmiki. So his yashas, his kirti, his fame is not restricted by time or by space. Because it traverses the entire universe, it is not restricted by space. Because it transcends all the aspects of time. It has been there in the past, is there in the present, is going to be in the future. So it transcends time also. Beyond time, space and causation. That is the definition of God. God is not bound by time or space. Kaladeshavadivyam nirmuktam nityamuktam. His glory also is likewise. Let me quote a sloka from the Bhagavata to substantiate this view. There, Shukacharya, it is a very interesting thing. Only for 5 avatara, Shukacharya has offered his prostrations. One is the Rishabhavatara, the other is the Matsyavatara, The third one is the Mohini Avatara, not necessarily in that order, because Matsya Avatara comes after the Mohini Avatara, Rama Avatara and Krishna Avatara. In the case of Rama Avatara alone, the prostrations are not offered once, as in the case of the other four avatars. They are offered thrice. In the space of 2 adhyayas, 3 times he prostrates to Lord Rama. It's a very wonderful thing. In one of those slokas, he says, mere prostration will not do, mere namaskara will not do, because this particular avatara was to show the importance of Sharanagati. So I must surrender myself unto him. Yasyamalam dripasadassu yashodhunapi gahayanti agagnam rishayaha digibendra pattam tam nakapada vasupada kirita jushta padam bujam ragupadim sharanam prapadye. Yasya amalam yashaha. Yasya amalam nirpasadassu yashaha. His fame is absolutely unsullied fame. And that fame will continue to inspire generations to come. Nirpasadassu. In the august presence of royalty, great sages are going to sing of his glory. They are going to sing forever and ever. Gayanti agagnam risheha. Gayanti is a present tense usage, mind you. So it continues not only in the time of Shuka, in our own time, and in time of our children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, till the end of time and beyond the end of time. Time may end, but the glory of the Lord will not end. Yasyamalam nripasadassu yashaha adunapi gayanti adunapi. Even now, adunapi gayanti agagnam rishayaha. Why do they sing of this glory of the Lord? It is because each sloka, each akshara has the potency to totally annihilate all papas, all sins. Ekaikam aksharam proktam mahapatakanashanam. There is no specification which says that this particular akshara will annihilate the papa, this particular word will annihilate the papa, the other word will not have the same potency. There is no specification as such in the Ramayana. Any akshara, any letter they take at random out of the 24,000 slokas, each single akshara has this potency to totally destroy all the papas that have been committed. That is why Agagnam Rishayaha Digibendra Pattam. If you go to Guruvayur, especially if you happen to be in Trishur on the Trishur Puram day, you will find that 30 to 40 caparisons elephants, they are paraded in the open ground facing the Vadakanatha temple. It's a sight for the celestials to see. In Guruvayur also, they have got a separate camp where they take care of 50 or 60 elephants. Normally, there is a number of elephants there. Out of all these elephants, every year, one elephant will be chosen. The elephant which performs best, it will be chosen, and it is designed to carry the Lord at the time of Srivedi. That elephant is termed as Gajaraja, the king of elephants, Gajaraja. There may be a number of elephants. That single Gajaraja, which takes the form of the Guruvayurappan on its head, and also takes the Pujari, the Tirumeni also on its back, and goes thrice circumambulating the sanctum sanctorum, it will stand out. You cannot see that elephant as any other ordinary elephant. It will always stand out because of its grandeur, because of its glory and its majesty. It will stand out. Likewise, there may be any number of Puranas, any number of Itihasas, any number of scriptures which detail the glories of the Lord, but this particular Rama Avatara alone will shine as the Gajaraja does in the whole horde of elephants. Digibendra Pattam tam Nakapada Vasupada Kirita Jushta Padambujam. Nakapada is those who guard the heavenly abodes. Nakam is heaven. Tam Nakapada Vasupada Kirita Jushta. All those great gods and demigods, they come and prostrate at the lotus feet of Sri Rama. What happens is, their crowns are studded with gems and precious stones. All those precious stones, they come and cast their luster at the greater luster of his lotus feet. Tam Nakapada Vasupada Kirita Jushta Padambujam Ragupatim Sharanam Prapadye. I surrender before that Lord who is worshipped by the very gods themselves. That is the spirit of this sloka. So, 3 times he prostrates to Rama. within the span of 2 adhyayas in the Srimad Bhagavata. That is the greatness of Sri Ramavatara. So, this Yashas is not confined to his particular time when he incarnated, when he was physically walking the earth. The Yashas transcends time and space, so Yashasvi. And because his purity is absolutely unquestionable, there is not the slightest taint of sin. Nothing wrong can ever touch him. That is why he is termed as Shuchi. When these two words are taken in conjunction with each other, they will give you the meaning of Mahanubhava. The question stands answered. I have been talking of the Ramayana for more than 50 years now, half a century, more than half a century. But only today this inspiration has come to my mind. There are many people who are regular hearers, regular listeners, they will bear me out on this point. Why Valmiki has not used the word Mahanubhava to denote Rama is because these two words themselves, they give the same connotation as Mahanubhava. One is Yashasvi, the other is Shuchi. It is there in the first sarga itself. Yashasvi Jnana Sampannaha Shuchigi Vashyaha Samadhimani Jnana Sampannaha. He was full of wisdom. Jnana is different. Knowledge is different. Knowledge is vidvat. Jnana transcends vidvat. When knowledge becomes an experience, then it becomes sublimated into wisdom. That is the jnana which the Upanishads speak of. It is no use simply parroting what the scriptures have said. Any professor of philosophy, any professor of religion could perhaps talk to you for days together, months together on what the scriptures say. If you have studied the scriptures deep enough, and if you have been gifted by the Lord with the gift of talking, with the gift of oratory, you can keep people in trial for hours together. That does not constitute wisdom. Wisdom is experience. You must know from your own experience that you are no different from the supreme truth. You must realize the Mahavakya that the Atma is no different from the Brahma. Unless this realization dawns, and there are innumerable places in the Upanishads and other scriptures where guidelines are given to us to know how to identify a jnani. He will be identified by various things. There will be a total absence of desire or anger or fear in him. Vitaraga bhayakrodaka stitadihi munirichyate. He is totally unperturbed by any kind of sensual provocation. He is like the sea, absolutely at peace with himself. He does not have to seek happiness outside. Sve mahimnistitasya. He is always immersed in the bliss of the self, not in the momentary pressures that the material world has got to offer. That is one of the lakshanas, one of the symbols by which we can identify a true jnani. Such a jnani, Rama was such a jnani, jnana sampannaha, yashasvi jnana sampannaha. As we saw yesterday, he was the very picture of equanimity. Even when he was to be crowned as the Yuvaraja, and also the next day when he was asked to go back to go to the forest. Kamban sums up this in a very beautiful verse in the Sundarkanda. It doesn't come in the Ayodhya Kanda. In Sundarkanda he says, one moment the entire wealth of the world, the entire empire is at your feet. Shendiru padame endra bodinum. The next moment, ittiru thurandu yegu endra bodinum. Shithirathil alarnda shandamarai ottirukkum mugathini unnuvan. His face was radiant. See, the master stroke of a master poet. He was a Kavi Chakravarti, no doubt about it. Only those who have studied Valmiki and Kamban together, they can understand how closely Kamban follows the words of Valmiki. It's a very interesting exercise. It's a devotion of a lifetime, a labor of a lifetime, a labor of love of a lifetime. Previously in the Ayodhya Kanda, in the verse we alluded to yesterday, he says, Appurdu alarnda shandamarinai vendadamma. His face was like a lotus which has just bloomed. The same example is not quoted in the Sundarkumar. There we are talking of Rama who has already finished 13 years of exile. He is in the 14th, the last year of exile. For two reasons, the same example is not given, because it is a hallmark of a great poet not to repeat a word or an example. That is one reason. The second reason is the rose, a lotus which bloomed 14 years back, would have decayed, decomposed, and gone into oblivion after 14 years. You can't preserve a rose for 14 years, you cannot preserve a lotus for 14 years. But if the lotus were to be painted by a master painter like, say, Ravi Verma, then after 14 years it retains the same original effulgence, original radiance. It continues to attract thousands of art lovers. So, Shitiratil Ananda Chandamarai, Uttarikum Muhattini Unnuvad. That was the kind of face of Rama which Sita was contemplating when Anjaneya happened to see Sita from the heights of the Simchipa Vriksha. He sighted Sita, and Sita was lost in contemplation of Rama. That is the context in which this verse comes in the Kamba Ramayana. So, he was always a picture of equipoise, equanimity. He was never disturbed. You may ask, we have been hearing the Ramayana for ages. From our childhood we know the story. The story is very clear. When Sita was abducted by Ravana, Rama cries, rants, raves. He goes into historical emotions, which became historical because of Valmiki. Historical emotions became historical because of Valmiki's pen, because of Valmiki's word. He goes into historical emotions at the sorrow of separation from Sita. How can you call such a man as being an equanimity, a picture of equanimity? Bhattacharya gives an answer for that. Shukacharya also gives an answer from a different viewpoint. He says, all this is a Leela Nataka of the Lord. It was to show if you are excessively attached to anything or anybody, it may be your own spouse, but if you are excessively attached, this kind of sorrow is bound to visit you. Sti Sanginam Gatimiti Pratagyanschachara Bhagavatam. In the Narayaniam, Bhattacharya goes one step forward and says, you have incarnated as a human being. So you have to display the emotions which a normal man would display. Supposing Rama had been absolutely unmoved by the abduction of Sita, the world would censure him. You are a man without a heart. Your wife, a great Pativrata, who sacrificed her entire life for you, she has been abducted from your presence, and you have not shed a single tear. You have no emotion in your heart. Is your heart made of flesh and bone, or is it made of iron? Is it made of stone? That is the way the world would have censured the Lord. So that is not correct. As long as he is in human form, he must react and respond as any other human being would do. But that was all outside. In his innermost heart of hearts, he was happy. This is the greatest grouse that you can place at the feet of the Lord. How can you say that he can be happy inside? Why he was happy is because he has given a word to the Devas that he will annihilate Ravana, he will destroy Ravana with his entire family. That is how he has given the word and incarnated as Rama. Till this point of time, till the abduction of Sita, there is no real nexus between Rama and Ravana. There is no cause for him to engage in battle with Ravana. Now a nexus has been created. An opening has been given for him to step into battle with Ravana. So, there is a very good chance for fulfilling the word that he has given to the Devas. That is why he was happy. He was not happy that Sita has been abducted. He was happy that there was a chance, the opening was given for him to fulfill his pledge to the Devas. Tenartopi tvamantaha kimapi mudamadhaha tad vadopaya labhat. Vadopaya. A way of finishing off Ravana was found. Because of that, he was happy. Tad vadopaya labhat. So, he was the very picture of equanimity. He was totally unperturbed. And let me take this matter a little further. The story will take we will take the story a little further. After the demise of Ravana, after Vibhishana has been enthroned once again in Lanka, when Rama comes back in the Pushpak Vimana along with Sita and the hordes of Vanuras and Vibhishana and other surviving Rakshasas, there Ayodhya is sighted from a distance. The Pushpak Vimana comes by the aerial route. So you can always, when you fly in a plane, you can always see the destination approaching. You may not be able to see the details, but you can see that some city is approaching. It will be announced on the intercom by the pilot that we are now approaching. We will be landing in about 10 minutes or so. Such an announcement will be made. Now, this aerial flight of the Pushpa Vimana brought them close to Ayodhya and also to the Saryu, on whose banks Ayodhya was situated. And mind you, Rama tells Sita, Pranamam kuru vaidehi rajadhani pitur mama. Prostrate yourself before this Janmabhumi, the capital city of my father, revered father. He is going to be the king, there is no doubt about it. The 14 years of exile have they have been exhausted. Perhaps in a day or two he is going to be crowned as the king. There is no doubt about it, but not for a single moment that thought entered his mind that I am going to be the emperor of Kosala Desha, I am going to be the king of Ayodhya. No, it was always the city of his father. It was the city ruled by his father. So Rajadhani Pitur Mama, that was the kind of non-detachment that he had towards the royal position. He was totally at equipoise with himself. That is why Yashasvi Jnana Sampannaha Shuchigi Vashyaha Samadhiman. Shuchi already we have seen, he was the very picture of purity. Some people may ask, you say he is the embodiment of purity. There are two main charges against him. One is the slaying of Vali, the other is the abandonment of Sita in the Uttarakhanda. How do you call such a person as the epitome of purity? The slaying of Vali is very easily answered. Vali himself has acknowledged the righteousness of Rama's action, as we saw yesterday. To add weight to this, Lakshmana, in the final battle with Indrajit, before releasing the missile, so today, if you want to release a missile, there is a hardware component. That hardware component has to be activated by deploying a software. In a common man's language, if you say, if you want to operate your laptop, there is a password. That password becomes the software to activate the hardware, which is the laptop in front of you. So, in our ancient scriptures, this software is called as a mantra. Any missile, any armament, by itself it is known as a shastra. When the software component is also conjoined with it, then it acquires the term as astra. That is why you have got the Brahmastra, you have got the Narayanastra, you have got the Pashupatastra, you have got the Varunayastra, you have got the Agneyastra. All these words, they signify the deity presiding over that particular astra. They give a clue about the mantra which will activate this particular missile or particular astra. So, what is the great mantra which brought down the fall of Indrajit? So far, Indrajit was a great warrior, extremely valorous, no doubt about it. But Indrajit was felled because of one particular shloka which Lakshmana chanted and used it as a pledge of truth which could not go waste, which could not go false. Dharmatma satyasandascha ramo dasharatir audushecha apratidundvaha sharinam jagiravanim. If Rama is the embodiment of Dharma, if he is totally steadfast in his adherence to truth, if he is the progeny of Dasharatha, if he is unequaled and unsurpassed in his valor, Paurushecha Apratidundva, then this arrow must go and bring about the downfall of Indrajit, Sharinam Jagiravanim. So, see the usage of the word, Shara Yenam Jagiravanim. The words are addressed to the arrow because the arrow the astras are presided over by some deities. That is all in the Dhanurveda. Later on, before the fall of Ravana, the arrow is vividly described. Who are the deities in the front? Who are the deities in the middle? And who are the deities who bring up the rear? All these have been given in detail in the Valmiki Ramayana before the demise of Ravana. Likewise, here he addresses the Bana, the arrow, and says, Shara, Yenam Jai Ravanim. You must go and bring Indrajit down. Jahi, you must finish him off. Jahi means kill. Chara Yenam Jai Ravanim. And that arrow did its job. The next moment, after release of this arrow, Indrajit was brought down. If any of these statements had not been true, then the missile would not have succeeded in its attempt. So it only goes to show that Rama's adherence to truth or dharma was beyond question. Dharmatma satyasandascha. Why this particular word dharmatma? Because there are two cases, two instances where Rama perhaps appears to have swerved from dharma. He did not actually swerve from dharma. He appears to have swerved from the truth. He did not actually swerve from the truth. In the case of truth, there are two instances. One is when Sumantra was driving the chariot outside Ayodhya towards the Dandakaranya. Dasharatha and Kausalya, in the agony of their apprehended separation from their beloved son, they came running, totally incapable of being running. They were in their extreme they were in their extreme old age. They could not run. In spite of that, Dasharatha called out to Sumantra and said, Sumantra, please tarry for a moment. Let me see the face of my beloved Rama one more time before he goes to the forest. But Rama told Sumantra, keep on driving, don't stop. It's a very great dharma sankata for Sumantra, whether to obey the father or the son. You have told me, I have to come back to the city. After leaving you in the forest, I have to come back to the city. And Dasharatha is bound to ask me, I asked you to tarry for a moment. You did not listen to my words. Is this the kind of behavior expected of a person like you? What am I going to answer him? At that point of time, Rama told Sumantra, you can very simply say, I have not heard you. Is it not a blatant falsehood? The words have been very well heard by Sumantra, by Rama, Lakshmana and Sita. Everybody has heard it. But Rama tells Sumantra, if at all Dasharatha questions you why you did not wait despite specific injunction, why you chose to drive the chariot on, you simply tell him, I have not heard you. Nashrosham iti rajanam upadabdopi vakshyasi. Here the motive is more important. This is called the sukshma of dharma. All falsehoods do not become falsehoods. All truths do not become truths. We must understand this. Supposing, let me give an example. A rowdy chases a pious man. The pious man takes refuge somewhere in some alley or a small street. He disappears into a house. And at the front of the house, in front of the pyre is the word we use for thinnai. So, on the front of the house of the pyre, this somebody is sitting there. This rowdy comes and asks him, did you see this some person going inside? If he wants to be very truthful and say, yes, only 2 minutes back that man has gone here. That rowdy will go and attack him, he will cause violence, he will cause harm to him. Now, is this truth to be followed? The Shastras very clearly say that a falsehood which is uttered to protect the life of somebody else is not a papa, it is a punya. So, what is the motive? What is the circumstance? All these things, a host of factors, they determine whether a falsehood is punya or papa. You cannot give an unqualified answer to that. Similarly, here what would have happened if Sumantra had tarried for a while? Dasharatha and Kausalya, because of the intensity of their sorrow, they would have come, they would have probably fallen at the feet of Rama, they would have probably fractured their hands or legs, we do not know. Is it better to leave Dasharatha and Kausalya in a good, healthy condition or to leave them with bandages in their body? Just imagine. So, what is good, what is punya, is that which does not prolong the agony. Chiram dukkasya papishtam iti ramas tamabravit. These are the words of Valmiki. Anything that prolongs the agony of persons is papa. Chiram dukkasya papishtam iti ramas tamabravit. So, here is a classic place where apparently a falsehood has been uttered. Rama has see, he becomes an accomplice in this falsehood. He advises Sumantra to tell Dasharatha, I have not heard you, having heard clearly. Is this not a falsehood? Then the other second instance is when Shurpanaka approaches, he says, Shriman Agradharascha. While talking with his brother Lakshmana, he says, he has not been married. Lakshmana was married on the same day as Rama. He says, Shriman Agradharascha. There, Govindaraja in his Vyakhyana, he says, Asahagritadaraha Nagiramu Mitya Brute Parigasakadastapi. He is married, but he has not brought his wife along with him because my Rama will not utter a falsehood. Even for the sake of a joke, he will not utter a falsehood. That was the standard, that was the benchmark that Rama had set for himself. So, if these two instances were actually instances of falsehood, that missile would not have brought Indrajit down. Dharmatma Satyasandascha. Now, question of Dharmatma, where is the question of doubt that Rama is a Dharmatma? There the issue is the slaying of Vali. It is very clearly mentioned in the Ramayana that Rama hid himself behind a tree. Vrikshaihi Atmanam Avritya. Those are the exact words. Not one tree, but a grove of trees we provided sufficient cover for Rama to cover himself. Now, is this right? Should Rama have struck Vali while himself remaining unseen? Is it correct? This has been a debate which has been exercised in the minds of people from the time of Ramavatara till today. It keeps on going. There are people who accept it, pious people who are able to accept the word of Valmiki. Agnostics and non-believers who question the very existence of Rama, they question the existence of Rama, but they don't question the slaying of Vali. They question the righteousness of slaying of Vali. If Rama himself did not exist, where is the question of going into the right or wrong of slaying of Vali? They don't think on those lines. They will question the existence of Rama. At the same time, they will also say what Rama did is not right. See the logical lacuna in that. If you say that I don't believe in Rama, then you have no right to question whether Rama killed Vali, whether it is right or wrong. You have no right to question that. But all the subtleties of logic are lost on non-believers. They are lost on them. That is by the way. Now, if Rama's slaying of Vali was wrong, if it was against Dharma, again this missile would not have found its mark. It would not have brought Indrajit down. Dharma Atma Satrasandascha. Ramo Dasharathir Yadi. Now, where is the question of doubt that he was Dasharatha's son? As I referred some time back in today's discourse, Rama was not born of the virya of Dasharatha. He was born because of the imbibing of the Payasam by Kausalya. So, despite that, there is no question that he was Dasharatha's son. Ramo Dasharathir Paurushecha Apratidvandvaha. Paurusham is the quality of a Purusha, a Kshatriya, the valor of a Kshatriya. The code of conduct enjoined on Kshatriya specifies that once you enter into battle, you cannot step back even for a single millimeter. If you step back, it is against the code of conduct prescribed for the Kshatriyas. In the final battle with Kara, what happened was, Kara was coming nearer and nearer. Now, there is something called a minimum range from which a missile can be fired. Missile can be discharged. Fired in today's context, discharged in the context of Ramayana's times. For the arrow to be discharged, you require a minimum space. That space was not available. So, to create that space, Rama stepped sideward by 2 or 3 steps. Apasarpat vitrapadam kinchit tvarita vikramaha. Apasarpat. It was only a sidestepping, not a backstepping, to prove that Paurushecha apratidvandvaha sharenam jagiravanim. This is the wonderful sloka. This is a Mahamantra. This sloka is a Mahamantra. If my memory serves me right, it comes somewhere in the 91st Sarga of the Yuddhakanda, just before the demolition of Indrajit, before the demise of Indrajit. For those who wish to read Ramayana as a sacred ritual, perform Parayanam of the Ramayana, it is necessary that they must be initiated by a competent guru into what is called the Rama Shadakshari mantra. Many people, they confuse and pronounce it as Shadakshari. It is not Shadakshari, but Shadakshari. Rama Shadakshari and Subramanya Shadakshari. There are two deities who have got 6-lettered mantras after them, and one of this is Rama. If you are not able to get a guru who can initiate you into this Rama Shadakshari mantra, then the next alternative is to chant this sloka. Dharmatma Satya Sandasya Ramo Dasharatiri Purushecha Apratidundvaha Sharinam Jagiravanim a few times and then start the Parayanam of the Ramayana. That is the potency of this great sloka. Why we have been going into all this is because to show that Rama was Shuddha, Shuchi. We have still not come to the very crucial topic. The slaying of Vali is very easily explained by this words of Lakshmana. What about the abandonment of Sita, who was she was in an advanced state of pregnancy at the time of abandonment by Rama? How do you explain that? This is a very nagging question. Even great devotees of Rama have shed tears at the plight of Sita when she was abandoned, and that too without any advance notice. She was just abandoned by the side, near the ashram of Valmiki. All this is to be found in Uttarakhanda. I will take a little time to expatiate on this. This is very important. Rama did not abandon Sita because he suspected her fidelity. Let us be very clear about it. There was a need of suspicion which was raised by some unknowing citizens of Ayodhya. That is true. But Rama did not suspect her chastity at all. He knew in his heart of hearts that Sita was the epitome of purity. To borrow a phrase from Shakespeare, pure as the icicle of snow in Diana's temple. That is how Shakespeare puts it. She was more than that. She was so potent in her purity, she could purify purity itself. Utpatti pariputayaha, in the words of Bhavabhuti. She was pure from her birth. As I said earlier, she was not born out of Dampatya for a normal Dampati. She came out of the earth, so she did not have the taint of even Garbhavasa. Even she was better than Rama, you should say, because Rama underwent the Garbhavasa of Kausalya for 12 months. Sita did not undergo the Vasa, the stay in the womb of a mother even for one single second. So, Utpatti Padiputaya, this is the entire exact phrase of Bhavati in the Uttaramcharitam. Rama knew that Sita was purity incarnate. Antaratma chameveti Sitam Shuddham Yashasvinim. I quote from the Uttarakhanda. Then, does not aggravate the gravity of what Rama has done. Knowing that Sita was absolutely innocent, how could he bring himself to abandon her? That too, not directly, but indirectly by telling Lakshmana, go and leave her near the ashrama of Valmiki and come back. Don't ask me questions. Please do as you are told. Lakshmana was bound by the word of his elder brother. Why did he do it? It is a very difficult question to answer, but we have to go do a lot of self-introspection to understand this. Here there is a conflict of interest between Rama's duty as an husband and his duty as a king. One is in the private domain, the other is in the public domain. How you resolve this conflict? The compulsions of royal office, they alone determined that Rama should abandon Sita, because as the phrase goes in English, Caesar's wife must be above suspicion. A king must not only appear to be absolutely just and transparent in all his actions, in his words and his thoughts. He must be so in his actual conduct. He must also appear to be so in the eyes of his subjects, so that their faith in their king would be 100%. There will not be the slightest questioning of their loyalty. Once the needle of suspicion was raised by one or two unknowing citizens in the city of Ayodhya, Rama decided, if I must have the unswerving support and the unfailing loyalty of my subjects, then myself and Sita, we have got to undergo the greatest sorrow that is possible, to be separated from each other, and that too knowing that she is not at fault at all, knowing that she is the very picture of innocence, I am forced to abandon her. Where he has placed his public calling, his public responsibility at a higher plane than his private joy or private pleasure. This is the tradition of the Bharatiya Varsha. We must understand this by a contrasting comparison from English history of several decades ago, when an English king chose to abdicate his right to the kingdom so that he could marry the woman that he loved. There he placed his personal priority at a greater level than his public commitment as a king. The vice versa is to be seen in the case of Rama. His public commitment, because the joy and the sincere trust of the people, of millions and millions of people, that is much more important than the joy of two individuals, Rama and Sita. Look at it from this perspective. It is there to be found in each and every middle class family. Perhaps till about 2 generations back, if you see, the elder son would get married, the first daughter-in-law of the house, she would take up all the responsibilities. The youngest brother would be perhaps a small child at the time of the marriage of the eldest brother. So the sister-in-law did not remain merely a sister-in-law. She was more like a mother who nurtured the siblings of her husband. And in those days, when the joint family system was very much in vogue, I am talking of 50 or 60 years back, when the joint family system was very much in vogue, the opportunities for the newly married bride and bridegroom, for the newly married Dampati, to have some private time together was very, very negligible. They were all in the same joint family. There was more a sense of commitment to duty. I must educate my brothers. I must educate my sisters. I must see that my sisters are well married off because my parents are old. The entire responsibility has fallen on me as the eldest son of the family. So my duty is to see that they are all well settled in life. So they were sacrificing not out of compulsion, but with grace. They were sacrificing their personal priorities and personal pressures so that the entire family could grow and settle itself. This was the case of ordinary families. Now look at the king as a great head of the family called the entire country. So the entire subjects, all these subjects have to be carried along with him in this journey of life. They must be ensconced in welfare. They must be allowed to grow and see their own full potential raised. For all these things, 2 people chose to sacrifice their personal happiness, Rama and Sita. And Rama became an instrument where he was forced, because of his royal office, he was forced to abandon Sita. This is the sentiment which is very pithily expressed by Babhuti in Uttar Ramacharitra. Rajyam dayam cha saukhyancha yediva janakīm api ārādhanāya lokasya munchato nasti me vyatha. If for satisfying my subjects, if for ensuring their happiness and trust and loyalty, I have got to sacrifice the kingdom, Rajyam, if I have got to sacrifice any iota of compassion in my mind, unless you harden your heart, you cannot abandon your wife. So, Rajyam dayancha saukhyancha, my personal happiness I have satisfied, I have sacrificed. Even if I have to sacrifice Sita herself, there is no grouse in my mind, there is no grumbling in my mind, munchato nasti me vyata. It is a very high ideal. Ordinary people like us may find it difficult to understand the compulsions under which Rama acted. It is always very easy to judge in retrospect. But those are the compulsions which forced Rama to act as he did. There was not the slightest doubt in his mind about the purity or innocence of Sita. So Sita was also absolutely pure. Rama was also absolutely pure because he did not act out of emotion. He acted because of a commitment to a higher duty, a higher welfare of the greater good of the people. That is why Shuchi, the very beginning itself, this was the cause of Valmiki's concern. As I explained on the first day, Valmiki had a doubt, is there no perfect person, the embodiment of all virtue in the entire world? He was wondering because Rama had abandoned Sita in the vicinity of the Valmiki's ashram. In this context, Narada tries to assuage his doubts and says, he arraises his doubts and says, don't worry, if you want to have the embodiment of purity who is untouched by sin, untouched by any fault, you have to go to Rama and Rama alone. That is why Yashasvi Jnana Sampannaha Shuchihi Vashyaha Samadhima. Vashyaha, again, one who is absolutely straightforward, one who is totally honest. He has nothing to fear. He will not bow down before anybody. He will stand tall in the company of his fellow men. But Rama, despite being the very embodiment of purity, the embodiment of honesty, integrity and straightforwardness in his private and public lives, both these spheres he was a cut above the class, as the phrase goes. In spite of being all this, he had the humility to bow down to those who are worthy of respect. That's why Shuchit Vashyaha Samadhiman. Prajapati Samashrimani Dhahatari Punishudanaha. He was equal to very Brahma himself, Prajapati Samaha, Shriman. Shriman occurs twice, I told you, and we have seen two interpretations yesterday. One is the fact that he was always immersed in his Atma Sukha, that is why Atma Shri, the Atma Sampat, Deva Sampat, as the Gita puts it. The other thing, he was always with Sita. Sita may have been physically separated from her Lord, but they were always mentally together. That's why Shriman, Prajapati Samashrimani, Dhata Ripunishudanaha. Dhata is the creator. Having said that he was equal to Prajapati, again, it is re-emphasized and said, Dhata. What did Rama create? He created a wonder which has not been even thought of in the world, entire world. Can you ever traverse back in time? Perhaps in fiction. H.G. Wells wrote a fictional novel called Time Machine. In fiction, you may be able to travel back in time. Not in actuality. In actuality, Rama reversed the tide of time, because when Rama was the emperor of Ayodhya, Treta Yuga got converted into Krita Yuga. This is the assessment which Swami Deshika has given us. Treta Yuga Pravartita Karta Yuga Vrittanta. So, he was able to create Krita Yuga out of Treta Yuga, therefore he is Dhata. Dhata, the creator. Prajapati Samashrimani. Dhata Ripunishudanaha. Ripunishudanaha. Already we have seen he was the conqueror of his enemies. Dhata Ripunishudanaha. How did he conquer his enemies? There is a beautiful sloka in the Ayodhya Ganda. Dasharatha laments, having heard the two boons sought by Kaikeyi. There is a long sarga where he laments, gives expression to all his emotions. He says, Satyena lokan jayati deenam dhanena ragavaha gurun sushrushaya viraha dhanusha yudhishatramane. By his steadfastness to truth, he won over the entire world. It's very important to understand this. Winning was not merely by resort to arms. An ordinary Kshatriya would have done this. He would have taken his bow and arrow and he would have won the enemies. But Rama was much, much more than a mere Kshatriya king. He was the Lord himself. So, there were various levels of winning. So far as the entire world, the ordinary world was concerned, his Satyanishta, his steadfast adherence to truth was what conquered them and brought them to his feet. Satyena lokan jayati. Those who were indigent, those who were afflicted by poverty, They were won over by his magnanimous nature, by his audarya, by his proclivity to give and give, by his munificence. Satyena lokanjagati deenan danena ragavaha gurun sushrushaya viraha. Now, guru means anybody who is old, one who is great, is a guru. Need not necessarily be a preceptor, need not necessarily be somebody who teaches you. Anybody who is older to you is a guru. That is the literal meaning of that word. Elders as a community, if you see, supposing you take a person who is 80 or 85 years. Now, if you go and give them money, what will they do with it? You can give them a lakh of rupees. Perhaps they will not even be in a position to go and deposit that money in the bank, in their account. They are unable to stir out of the house. They require some assistance. At that point of time, when you are in a senior citizen or super senior citizen, what you require is some personal attention for day-to-day things. Perhaps even to get up from a easy chair, somebody has to hold your hand and help you to get up. For having your bath, somebody has to take you, escort you, so that you don't fall or you don't stumble in the bathroom. Somebody has to escort you to the bathroom. Somebody has to prepare the meals and give you. You imagine a grandmother of 85, if she is required to cook every day, day after day, she was doing this for so many decades. But now today, the health does not permit it. No 2 days are alike. Today you may be okay, tomorrow you may be under the weather. So if somebody takes care of the cooking and invites you for lunch or dinner, it is a great blessing. You don't want anything, a small thing. They don't want a very great feast. An ordinary, one idli or one dosha at age of 85, it will be a great blessing. When you are smitten by the pangs of hunger, you require something to assuage your hunger. Sushrusha. Sushrusha means, literal meaning of sushrusha is shrotamichya sushrusha, a desire to listen. Desire to listen. Supposing they say something, you must have the patience and the humility to listen to them fully and act according to their wishes. That is called sushrusha. So, sushrusha is not merely service. It also indicates a willingness to listen and an attitude to serve based on that listening. That is sushrusha. Gurun sushrushaya viraha. He was capturing all these people, elder people, by his sushrusha, by his loving service. Gurun sushrushaya viraha dhanusha yudhishatravan. The kodanda, the resort to arms was reserved for only one category. Those enemies who were daring enough to challenge him in battle, they were brought down by his arrow. Dhanusha yudhishatravan. So he was able to take the entire world with him. That is why Ripunishudanaha, Data Ripunishudanaha. Ripunishudanaha, it is not merely an exercise of arms. It is not merely a resort to bows and arrows. Tyagaraja puts this very beautifully. Even in the case of the worst enemy like Ravana, he did not take resort to arms in the first instance. He gave a long rope, extremely long rope. First he employed what is called a sama. That is amicable dialogue, to make the other person understand that he is in the wrong. If that fails, to shower him with gifts so that he is enamored by the munificence and he comes back to the enemy's feet. That is dana. The third one is bhaya. Beda. Beda is based on bhaya. When you are able to inculcate some fear in the mind of the enemy and make him confused, that is beda. All these three upayas which are listed out in the Rajatantra, the art of governance, all these three were employed. Because none of these three worked, only then Rama took the last resort of danda, that is taking resort to arms. Sarasa, Sama, Dana, Beda, Danda, Chatura. And it was not all these things that they were employed just like that. There was a finesse to his employment of Sama or Dana or Beda or Danda. It was done with elan, with finesse, Sarasa. Sarasa, Samadana, Beda, Danda, Chatura. So, Ripunishudana encompasses all this and much more. Data Ripunishudanaha, Prajapati Samashriman, Data Ripunishudanaha, Rakshita Jivalokasya, Dharmasya Parirakshita, Rakshita Swasya Dharmasya, Swajanasya Cha Rakshita. This sloka is very important. It shows the sequence, the order in which a king should protect. Rakshita Jiva Lokasya. First and foremost, he was the protector of the entire world, the entire community of subjects. Mahan Shivansar in his book, in his magnum opus, he has said, no political leader should say, I will protect the downtrodden, I will protect these particular minorities, or I will protect only ladies. You should not segregate your subjects. You are the king, you are the leader for the entire population. I must protect all my subjects. Don't segregate them, category A, category B, or category C, and say, I will work for their progress. You should not say that. Your vision must be such, it must be so all-encompassing. It must not make a distinction. You must try to uplift each and every one of your subjects. That is why, without exception, Rakshita Jivalokasya Dharmasya Paririkshita. How do you uplift your subjects? How do you ensure their welfare? It is not merely by proclamations, not merely by government orders, not merely by announcements. The one and the only way, sure way to see that your subjects are uplifted in all ways. It is not merely economic upliftment, it is not merely social upliftment. Ultimately, they must also be spiritually uplifted so that they can find their peace with the Lord. So, all these types of upliftment will follow if the king remains true to his royal duty. Dharmasya Parirakshita. The one is the cause, the other is the effect. The effect has been stated first. Rakshita Jiva Lokasya. The cause is Dharmasya Paririkshita. And note the words. Rakshita Jiva Lokasya. He was protecting the entire world, entire community of subjects. But there was a special emphasis when it came to protection of Dharma. It was not merely Rakshita, Dharmasya Paririkshita. Rakshita Jiva Lokasya. Dharmasya Paririkshita. And how do you protect Dharma? Dharma there is a very interesting contrast. When it comes to people, you must protect all your subjects. And the end, as the last thing, you can also protect people who are close to you. Swajanasya Charikshita. Today, we find the opposite in action. Only people who are close to somebody in power, they get all the benefits. They should be the last person to get the benefits according to Valmiki. So, Swajanasya Charikshita comes last in the end of the sloka. But before that, when it comes to Dharma, your Swadharma must get preference. When it comes to Loka, your people who are close to you must get the last preference. When it comes to Dharma, your Swadharma must get first preference. Rakshita Swasya Dharmasya Swajanasya Cha Rakshita. The word Cha is very interesting. Cha means, in this context, it means also is people who are close to him either by birth or by friendship. They were also protected. They were not the first persons to be protected, they were also protected. Swajanasya cha Rakshita. Rakshita Swasya Dharmasya. Your Swadharma must take first place, first priority. If you protect your Swadharma, how do you protect your Swadharma? By performing it. There is no other alternative. You cannot protect your Swadharma by saying, I will start a trust for the protection of my Swadharma. I have created a corpus of 100 crores. That will not protect your Swadharma. Money is not material. What is material is your adherence to Dharma in the most trying of circumstances. If you are able to strictly follow your Dharma, that alone will protect the Dharma. Only by Anushtana, only by practice. It is a very interesting thing. In the West, they say, you must practice what you preach. The implication is you preach first, then you practice. Whereas we say, what we say in our Bharatiya Samskriti, what we say is, you must first practice. It doesn't matter if you don't preach. Preaching must come later. Practice must come first. So, only that which you practice, you are qualified, you are entitled to preach. Even if you don't preach, it does not matter, but you must practice. The Mahaswami has said, even if there is one or two people, if there are one or two people who practice Dharma, the Sanatana Dharma will remain vital and eternally valid. There is no question about it. As a Dharma, as a religion, perhaps it is only our Sanatana Dharma which does not believe in proselytization. We don't ask people to come to our Dharma. We don't say you embrace our Dharma. You come to our religion. Only then you will find salvation. Never has this Hindu Dharma ever proclaimed like this. You follow your own Dharma. What we only pray to God is, at least those who are born in this dharma, they should not leave this dharma and go astray away from this dharma. That is the only prayer that we have got to offer to God. I will narrate one very interesting episode. A Westerner, a Christian by birth, he came to India. He was spiritually inclined. He wanted to have some guidance from real Mahatmas. He happened to visit Sringeri when His Holiness Chandrasekhar Bharati Mahaswamigal was the Peethadipati. The conversation has been very beautifully recorded by one of the ardent devotees who went by the name of Krishna, a year later took sannyasa. What I am going to say may not be a verbatim recounting of what is in the book, but the spirit of it. He went to see His Holiness. Of course, there would have been perhaps an interpreter, because Peethadipatis, though they may be Brahmagyanis and all-knowing, generally they don't speak in foreign tongues. They don't speak generally. So this man was perhaps, he was conversant only in English. He wanted to have a guidance from His Holiness. His Holiness was a great master of all Shastras, and Tarka Shastra particularly. So he did not directly give an answer. If he had directly given an answer, it would have been a unilateral imposition of his views on the person who came to seek his guidance. He elicited the same answer from the person who came to him for guidance. He asked him, "Do you believe in a God?" The Westerner told him, "Yes, I believe." "Do you believe that there is a purpose in what God does?" "Definitely. He would not do anything without a purpose. So there must be a purpose why He has made you to be born as a Christian." I now begin to realize what Your Holiness is driving at. This was the reply from the Westerner. So what should you do now? You should be a better Christian than what you were so far. That Westerner was totally amazed by this answer. He said, "I have come across so many religious leaders. You are the first person to say, you don't say, 'Come to my religion.' You practice your own religion more conscientiously, more assiduously. You are the first person to tell me, this is the spirit of Hindu Dharma. We don't ask other people to come to our religion. You keep your religion, you practice your religion, practice it with sincerity and integrity. God is going to definitely bless you." So it is not a proselytizing religion at all. So Sanatana Dharma does not say, "Preach your Dharma." No, preaching is least important. So long as there is practice, the Dharma is safe. If there is preaching and no practice, the Dharma is not safe. And if there is no preaching and only practice, then Dharma is safe. Therefore, Dharma must be practiced, and Dharma, only when it is practiced, it can be protected. If Dharma is protected, the world is protected. That is why the king is endowed with a great commitment, a great duty. A great duty has been enjoined on him. You must practice your Dharma. You must also ensure that all your subjects, they perform their Dharma according to their Varna and Ashrama, they perform their Dharma correctly. If you do this, then the gods will be pleased with that king, and all kinds of welfare, all kinds of subiksha will be visited on that country. The Raja Dharma states that where the king swerves from the Dharma, when there is a mistake on the part of the king, that kingdom is punished by visitations of natural calamities like earthquakes or tsunamis or hailstorms and so on and so forth. So Rama was very particular that the Dharma must be followed. He was particular that everybody follows Dharma. That is why Dharmasya Paririkshita. And he set an example. He led from the front, Dakshita Swasya Dharmasya. And those who are fortunate to be born with him or to be associated with him either by blood or by friendship, they also partook of this great welfare, Swajanasya cha Rakshita. Rakshita jiva lokasya dharmasya parirakshita rakshita swasya dharmasya swajanasya cha rakshita veda vedanta tattvajyaha dhanurvede cha nishtitaha sarvashastrartha tattvajyaha smritiman pratibhanavan. He was extremely proficient in all the Vedas and the Vedangas. Anga is a subsidiary. There are 6 subsidiaries, 6 ancillaries to the Vedas. They are known as the Shadangas. One is the Vyakaranam or grammar of it. Shiksha, Vyakaranam, Chandaha. Shiksha is the science of phonetics, which tells you how particular mantras have got to be chanted. Why there is a apparent distinction between chanting the same mantra coming in different Vedas. All these are dealt with in the science of phonetics called Siksha. Vyakaranam is grammar. I will not go into detail because that is outside the purview of this discourse. Just incidentally to know that there are 6 sanghas, I am touching briefly upon this. Siksha, Vyakaranam, Chandaha. Chanda is the science of meter because most of our scriptural literature is couched in metrical form, in poetical form. So, if you know the science of meter, you will know whether there is an error in recording, whether the couplet is complete or not. You will know all these things only if you are conversant with the science of meters, that is Chandas. Siksha, Vyakaranam, Chandaha. Then you have got Jyotisha. Jyotisha is astrology. It consists of 3 parts. One is mathematics, and linked to mathematics is astronomy, which deals with the movement of celestial bodies. How these movements affect the fortunes of people in the world, that is the subject of astrology. All these 3 things, mathematics as well as astronomy and astrology, all these 3 things put together, they constitute what is called Jyotisha. Jyotisha is supposed to be the eye of the Veda Purusha. If you are walking on a road and there's a pit 10 feet away, your own feet will tell you there is a pit only when you go into the pit. Before that, the feet will not know. The eye will tell you 10 minutes in advance, it will tell you there's a pit, you must be careful, you should not step into it, you must go away from it. So the eyes, they give you an indication, prayer indication of what is to come. Likewise, astrology gives you a prayer indication of what is to come. That is why it is called as the eye of the Veda Purusha. Then I must also explain one more thing. Astrology is an indicative science. It is indicative in the sense, many people, we don't understand the true spirit of it. We say the Shanishchara is creating a lot of havoc. It is not Shanishchara which creates havoc for you or showers the neighbor with a golden harvest. No. Shanishchara has nothing to do with either good or bad. The karma which you have performed in the previous janma bears fruit in this janma. And if the karma is punya, if the karma is full of auspicious deeds, then sukha or prosperity and all things auspicious are bound to come in its wake. If the karma is wrong, if it's evil karma, if it's papa, then suffering is bound to come. You cannot escape from either. Now, what astrology does is, it gives you an indication. If the stars are not beneficially placed in your horoscope, it only means that the time for fruition of your bad karmas has come. So you must be on guard. To give you a modern example, if there is a government advisory saying that the pandemic is on the rise, so people are advised to wear masks, it is only an advisory. There is a strain of bacteria which is affecting a significant part of the population. So what you can do, you can be more careful. You can be more hygienic. You can wear a mask. See that you are not subjected to the same strain of the virus. So it only gives you an indication of what you should do. So astrology also tells you likewise. If the stars are not favorable, it means you must renew your devotional efforts so that the grace of God can protect you. See that what started as a big storm becomes a little wind. It doesn't sweep you away off your feet. That is the indication that astrology offers you. It is something like the traffic signal. We all know if the signal is green, you can go. If it is red, you have got to stop. The problem arises with the intermediate signal, which is amber in hue. Especially in our country, we have got a tendency, if the signal turns amber while you are driving, what should you do? Logically, you should stop, because the next signal is going to be red. You wait for your turn when the signal will turn green, then you can proceed. We don't have the patience for that 1 or 2 minutes. We want to rush. Before it turns red, we want to cross the train and go to the other side of the street. At the same time, what happens from another direction, there is a flow of traffic. That fellow also, the amber is common. For one person it's going to turn red, for another person it's going to turn green. The amber is common for both. The other person also is in equally in a hurry to cross the street. A collision results. Can you say the signal only causes accident? I am hospitalized because of the signal. Is it not a foolish outcome to argue on those lines? The signal did not cause the accident. Signal did not ensure that you are laid up in hospital. Your own misreading of the signal was responsible for the accident. Likewise, neither Rahu or Ketu or Shanishtra, they are not responsible for the good or bad that takes place in your life. They only give you indications. If you don't know how to read that indication correctly, there's no point in blaming Rahu or Ketu or any of these stars or planets. There's no point in blaming them. So astrology is an indicative science. I thought, by the way, I should also clarify this because many people have got a wrong understanding of astrology. So having touched upon the subject, I thought I will take a minute or two to clarify this point. Astrology or Jyotisha is the eye of the Veda Purusha. Then you have got Siksha, Vyakaranam, Chandaha, Jyotisha, and also Kalpa. Kalpa is the hand of the Veda Purusha. Kalpa, in modern parlance, it is the operating manual which will tell you how the Vedic injunctions have to be translated into practice, how they have got to be implemented. That is the work of Kalpa. There was a book about 2 generations back, there was a book called Kalpatrayam. Today it has been renamed as Puja Vidhanam. That only tells you how certain pujas have to be performed according to the guidelines given in 3 kalpas. That is why it is called Kalpatrayam. So, Siksha, Vyakaranam, Chandaha, Jyotisham, there is one more anga, Niruktam. Niruktam is the Vedic dictionary or lexicon. Ordinary classical dictionaries cannot give you the meanings of all these words in the Vedas because the usage is unique to the Vedas. It doesn't come in the category of classical Sanskrit. So to understand the Vedic statements, to understand the Vedic words, you require a special lexicon to understand that, and that lexicon is called as Nirukta. These 6 constitute this Shadangas, 6 angas. In Tamil, we have got a word called Shadang. When you perform something according to these Shadangas, then it becomes Shadangi in Tamil. These 6 angas, along with the 4 Vedas, Rig Veda, Yajurveda, Samaveda, Atharva Veda, all these were mastered by Rama. Veda Vedanga Tattvajnaha, Dhanurvede cha Nishtitaha. Particularly for a Kshatriya, he must be a master of Dhanurveda, of the science of archery and all connected armaments. Dhanurveda is the Upaveda of Yajurveda. There are 4 Upavedas. Rigveda's Upaveda is Ayurveda, the science of medicine. Again, that is split into 2. There are 2 streams, the stream of medicine and stream of surgery. For medicine, the founding father is Charaka. The tradition is Patanjali wrote this treatise on medicine, Charaka Samhita, under a nom de plume called Charaka. That is why it is called Charaka Samhita. The surgery part is elaborated by a great rishi who was called Sushruta. So this is Ayurveda, which is the Upaveda of Rigveda. For Yajurveda, the Upaveda is Dhanurveda, which deals with all kinds of armaments, all kinds of missiles, astras, shastras, there are lot of details which I will not go into, how these missiles have got to be used, how they have got to be used in battle. Then the Upaveda for Samaveda is Gandharva Veda. It covers music, fine arts, all kinds of folk arts, all these things which go under the category of art, they will come under Gandharva Veda. The Upaveda of the Atharva Veda is the Artha Shastra, which deals with the art of governance, art of politics, all those things they are covered under Artha Shastra. All these 14, the 4 Vedas, the 6 Sangas and the 4 Upavedas. The Upavedas, they constitute Vidyasthanas, they are sources of knowledge. They are not sources of dharma. They don't constitute dharmasthanas, because sometimes the Ayurveda will tell you something, to eat something, to take care of your health. It may not be in consonance with the Dharma Shastra. It is only telling you from a limited perspective of protecting your health, you take this particular type of food. The Dharma Shastra may prohibit it. So they don't constitute with they constitute only Vidyasthanas, they don't constitute Dharmasthanas. This is all by the way. All these aspects of knowledge were totally mastered by Rama. Dhanurveda in particular, being a king, being a prince in the royal family, he was a master of all kinds of armaments, all kinds of missiles and astras and shastras. Dhanurvede cha nishtitaha sarvashastrartha tattvagyaha. Now Narada, having detailed all these things, he felt that four things have been left behind. The four are called the Upangas, apart from the six Angas. Now, Upangas, if the Angas are ancillaries, the Upangas are sub-ancillaries. Upangas. One is the Dharma Shastra, the other is the Purana, then you have got the Mimamsa, then you have got the Tarka. All these four, they are called the four Upangas. When you say Sangopangamaha in Tamil, it means along with the ancillaries and the sub-ancillaries, he has mastered all the Vedas. All these 14 Dharmasthanas have been mastered by him. To see that nothing is left out of the purview, Narada uses an all-encompassing phrase, Sarvashastrartha tattvagyaha. He was master of all Shastras. There was no branch of knowledge that he did not know, and no branch of knowledge that he touched upon that he did not adorn, as the phrase goes. Sarvashastrartha tattvagyaha smritiman pratibhanavani. Smriti is memory. It is one of the essentials of a great scholar, because unless your memory has been disciplined, there are three aspects of memory. One is absorbing something from a book or from various other sources. The other is retention, and the third is recall, because you must retain what you have gained. If you have not retained, it is of no use. Even if you retain, if you are unable to recall it at the appropriate time, imagine a student who is able to answer all the questions thoroughly while at home. When he goes to the examination hall, his brain becomes a total blank. What is the use of the knowledge which he is able to display in the house? If we cannot write it, if we cannot reproduce it on the answer paper, it is not going to show up in the mark sheet. So, retention and recall are equally important. These three aspects, the ability to absorb, to retain, and to recall. All these totally collectively, they constitute what is called as memory, smriti. Smriti Maham, Rama was an adept in his display of memory. We have already seen an example yesterday. After 14 long years, after a lot of water has flowed down the Ganga, after a lot of incidents have taken place, when the question of asking a boon from his father who has come down from the Pitaloka, when the question arises, he has the memory to recall what Dasharatha said in the privacy of his royal apartment, that Kaikeyi is not my wife, Bharata is not my son. Rama was able to recall it instantaneously. There is no effort in recalling. It must come instantaneously, spontaneously. And he was able to ask a boon from his father. You must re-accept your Kaikeyi as your wife. You must again accept Bharata as your son. That is the kind of memory. Ramaya akuntamedase smritiman pratibhanavan. Pratibhanavan. Pratibha, it's a very unique word. Bha is prakasha or luster. And when that prakasha, when that effulgence of the spirit is reflected, everybody has got that effulgence. The effulgence of the Supreme is there in every human being, in every creature it is there. But when it is reflected, it becomes pratibha. To put it as approximately as possible in English, it is the enviable gift of spontaneous repartee. Pratibhanavan, Smritiman, Pratibhanavan. I am reminded of one or two classic instances. Two people, both of them notable people in the society at that time, they were coming from the opposite sides of the single bridge. And the bridge was such that it was very narrow. It could admit of only one person at a time. So, what we call Ottedi Padi in Tamil, Ekayana Marga in Sanskrit. It was so narrow. Now, both these people, they were notable. They had their own egos. One person said, I will not give way, I don't give way to fools. The instant repartee came from the other person, I do, I give way. The answer is very clear. Who is the fool? The answer is very clear. That is the kind of pratibha. Smritiman pratibhanava. There's one more instance which comes to mind. Two British politicians. One who was very thin, the other person was very stout. They were crossing each other. The stout politician taunted the thin politician and said, to look at you, somebody would think there's a famine in the country. Instantaneously, the party came, and looking at you, somebody would think that you are the cause of the famine because you have eaten all the food. There's nothing else for other people to eat. That is the kind of pratibha, that is the kind of repartee. Smritiman pratibha navani sarvaloka priya sadhuhu adinatma vichakshanaha sarvaloka priyaha. It's a wonderful appellation. How can one man be beloved and endear himself to the entire populace? There are bound to be always, in the case of normal people like us, if there are 2 people to praise us, there will be 20 people to censure us. That is the normal way of the world. But in the case of Rama, not a single soul could find fault with him. As we saw earlier, the last 2 days, Kaikeyi could not find fault with him. Manthara was motivated by her greed to stick to power. So long as Kaikeyi remained the queen, and so long as she became the queen mother of Bharata, who would be anointed as the Yuvaraja, only then her position would be secure. It was a selfish motive which prompted Manthara. More than that, there is a divine design behind it. There is a sloka in the Padma Purana which says, the Devas, they were quite concerned. Seeing the speed and the dexterity with which Dasharatha was going about the arrangements for the coronation of Rama as Yuvaraja, they were very concerned, they were worried. If this coronation is going to take place tomorrow, what happens to the pledge that he has given to us that he will go and destroy Ravana? When this is going to take place, he will be simply enjoying the royal comforts in the palace. So they sent an Apsara called Manthara. She was made to take Janma in the palace of the KK king, the KK Desha, as a hunchback, as a servant maid, and she was also bestowed upon Kaikeyi as part of the various things that were showered on Kaikeyi at the time of marriage. She came as part of this Tridhana. Mantara nama karyartam apsara preshita suraihi dasi kachana Kaikeyi datta kekaya bhubhuta. This is the sloka in the Padma Purana. That explains the divine design behind it. Otherwise, Manthara could not say anything wrong about Rama. Remember that if you read the Sargas there, she only says, you will be out of power. If Rama comes to power, you will be out of power. You will be sidelined. That is the approach. But there is no wrong word about Rama, saying that Rama is guilty of such and such misdemeanor. Not even Manthara could point it out. No, nobody could point out. Kaikeyi could not point out. Shurpanaka, though she lost her nose and ears, she could not point out. Ravana himself could not point out. He said, as we saw earlier, he is Sakshat Narayana incarnate. That is the conclusion which Ravana came to after seeing the destruction of Kumbhakarna and Devantaka, Narantaka, Antaka, and so many other Rakshasas. He came to the conclusion, Narayana Manamaya. Tammanye Raghavam Veedam Narayana Manamayam. Not even the worst enemy could point out a finger and say, you have done wrong. Even Vali, who was felled by Rama's arrow, ultimately he said, Nadosham Raghavedadyu Dharme Adhikata Nishchayaha. I don't find fault with you. You are the very epitome of righteousness. You cannot be faulted. If this was the judgment of people on the other side of the divide, imagine what would be the reaction or response of people who are devoted to Rama. So, Sarvaloka Priyaha Sahaduhu. The definition of sadhu in the Shastras is something like this. Paradukkam asahishnuhu sadhu. One who cannot bear the sorrow of anybody else is more affected than the actually affected party. That is the definition of a sadhu. Rama was such. He could not bear to see tears in anybody's eyes. Even in his enemy's eyes, he could not bear to see sorrow. Paradukkam asagishnu sadhu. Sarvaloka priya sadhu. Adhinatma. Yeah, sadhu should not be mistaken for a person who crawls when he is asked to bend. There are a lot of people like that. Several decades back, today's generation may not remember that. When we had the emergency between 75 and 77, there were many people who were prepared to crawl when they were asked to bend. Rama was not of that type. He had his own strength of character. He would never bend before somebody for an unrighteous cause. That is important. For in the case of elders, in the case of preceptors, he was always the picture of humility. But if somebody tried to throw his weight around, he would stand to his full stature and say, "This is Rama." I'll give one example. Before Rama left for the forest, when Kaikeyi was telling Rama about the boon that Dasharatha had granted her, she told him, "Unless you leave for this forest, your father will not bathe, he will not eat, he will not partake of drink. Yavatvam navanam yataha puradasmad abitvadanni pita tasmad nate rama snasyate bhokshate piva." It is true that Dasharatha was in no mood to bathe or eat or drink because of his separation from Rama, because of the anticipated or apprehended separation from Rama. But for totally different reasons, Kaikeyi twisted the whole thing to her own advantage. She said, "Unless you leave for the forest, he will not bathe, he will not eat, he will not drink." Just imagine what must be the shock that would have been visited on Rama. He said, there are so many slokas. We will take only one sloka today. "Please don't think, mother, that I am after wealth. I am not after wealth. I am not after this kingdom. I am not after the royal paraphernalia. I am equal to the rishis in my commitment to dharma and to truth. You must know that dharma and dharma alone is my goal. Nahamartha paro devi lokamavastu mutsage vidyimam rishibhistulyam kevalam dharmamastitam." Kevalam dharmamastitam. Dharma and dharma alone is my motto. Dharma and dharma alone is my goal. There is no other aspiration as far as I am concerned. That was the kind of dignity and self-respect that he could command. He would never compromise on his self-respect. That is what is meant by the word adhinatma, vichakshanaha. Vichakshanaha, he was capable. He was capable in all spheres of life. Again, one illustration, one illustrative episode. When he left Ayodhya and reached Singhiberapura, the abode of Guha, so far he was only wearing the bark raiment. The jata is to come later. For the jata to be, for the normal shika to be converted into a jata, is a special process. Process is, don't care for the shika, it will automatically become the jata. If there is a lack of hair care, it becomes jata. To hasten that process, to quicken that process, he asked Guha. Guha is the denizen of the forest. He knows all the ins and outs of the forest. Please bring me the milk of the banyan tree, alampal, what we call alampal. Negroda kshiram in Sanskrit. Negroda kshiramanaya. Jatakrutva gamishyami. Negroda kshiramanaya. And Guha had brought that banyan tree milk to him. Applying that on his head, he converted his shika into jata. Lakshmana, who was standing by his side, was awestruck. Myself and my brother, we have all studied in the same preceptor for several years under Vasishtha. I don't think at any point of time Vasishtha taught us how to convert a shika into a jata. How my brother has been able to know this, I do not know. They were awestruck by his absolute mastery of various subjects which were not related to each other. Vichakshanaha. Adhinatma vichakshanaha. Sarvada abhigata sadbhigi samudraiva sindhubhihi aryaha sarvasamaschiva sadaiva priyadarshanaha. He was always flocked by people, sadhus, people of good intentions. They always sought the company of the Lord. Sarvada abhigata sadbhigi samudra iva sindhubhihi. As rivers seek the ocean, all the godly and the good people, they sought the refuge of the Lord Rama. Sarvada abhigata sadbhigi samudra iva sindhubhihi. There is a deeper implication in this particular sloka. The Shastras normally give rivers as the example of the jivas, and the ocean is given as the example of Paramatma. Apuryamanam achalapradishtam samudramapaha pravishanti yadvat tadvat kamaha yam pravishanti sarve sashanti mapnoti nakamakami is the famous verse which gives the definition of a sthita pragya in the second chapter of the Gita. Like the ocean which is absolutely unperturbed. In the rainy season it does not overflow. In dry summers, it does not shrink. It is always as it is. The jnani is always like that. The Brahman is always like that. It does not expand or contract. You cannot add to the Brahman, you cannot subtract from it. To take a mathematical example, x plus infinity plus x is still infinity. Infinity minus x is still infinity. You cannot add to infinity, you cannot subtract, you cannot detract from infinity. Likewise, you cannot add or detract from the infinite, which is the Surupa of the Paramatma. He is the infinite Lord. So you cannot add or subtract from him. That was the nature of the Jnani. That is the nature of the Jnani. That's why here Rama is compared to a Samudra, and all the good and the godly people who seek succor at his feet, those who come and seek refuge at his feet, they are compared to the streams, various rivers and various streams. Sarvada abhigata sadbhihi samudraiva sindhubhihi. Sindhu means ocean also. Sindhu also means river. There are a lot of words in Sanskrit which bear more than one meaning. In fact, words which have got only one meaning, they are very few. The vast majority of words in the Sanskrit dictionary, if you see, they have got more than one meaning. Sindhu is one such word. Sarvada abhigata sadbhigi. Why they should say, why Narada should say Sarvada? Sarvada means at all times. If you see the river, can you imagine one single moment when the river has stopped its flow? The river keeps on flowing. 24/7 is not an invention of the IT industry. It has been there from the times of creation, from the times immemorial. The river is the classic example of a 24/7 moment. It keeps on flowing. There is not a single moment when the river does not flow towards the ocean. So, the true devotee will always be in communion with the Lord. He will always be in contemplation of the Lord. Not one single moment will be wasted without contemplation of the Lord. That is why, while giving 5 examples for illustrating the relationship between the devotee and his chosen God in the Shivandalagari, a great Acharya Adi Shankara gives 5 examples. And the last example is Sindhu Saridvallabam. Ankolam Nijabija Santati Ayaskanto Padam Suchika Sadvi Nijavibum Lata Kshitiruham Sindhu Saridvallabam Vanchantiga Yatarata Pashupatege Padara Vindadvayam Cheto Vrittigi Upetya Tishtati Sada Sa Bhaktigi Tyuchate. Again, I will not go into the details of the shloka. That is not our subject now. Sindhu Saridvallabam, like the river which constantly keeps on flowing towards the ocean. All these good and godly people, they were constantly seeking the lotus feet of the Lord. Sarvada abhigata sadbhihi samudraiva sindhubhihi. The Mahaswami of Kanchi has pointed out this as a very pertinent guideline for us to follow. If you want to reach God, what should you do? Follow your dharma. Keep on doing your dharma without any rest. Keep on doing your dharma like the river which keeps on flowing. If you practice your dharma constantly, ultimately you are bound to reach the Supreme Lord. There is nothing else that you have got to do. Keep on doing your dharma. He will take care of the rest. This is indicated here in this sloka. Sarvada abhigata sadbhihi samudra iva sindhubhihi. He was the refuge of the good and the godly. We will stop today's discourse at this point, and we will take up the next sloka tomorrow. in 2 days' time, we will have to conclude this discourse. He will decide what sloka should be covered, where it should be stopped, and how it should be concluded. All these things, he will inspire. I am not bothered about it. I have seen innumerable times. It is his will, his inspiration alone which prevails. We will continue tomorrow. As usual, we will conclude with the Mangala Shloka. Aigiri Nandini Nandita Medini Vishwa Vinodini Nandinute Girivara Vindhya Shirodhini Vasini Vishnu Vilasini Jishnunute Bhagavati Shiti Kanta Kutumbini Bhuri Kutumbini Bhuri Krute Jaya Jaya He Mahisha Surama Dini Ramya Kapar Dini Shaina Sute Papa Bhava Tapa Bhara Kopa Shamana Harta Swasakara Bhasa Brudu Hasa Ruchi Rasyam Rogachaya Bhogabaya Vegaharamekam Vatapuranatha Mimamatanu Hridabjage Goshakula Doshahare Veshamupayantam Pushashata Dushaka Vibhushana Ganadyam Bhuktimapi Muktimati Bhakti Shuddhanam Vatapuranatha Mimamatanu Hridabjage Brahme Muhurte Paritasva Bhaktaihi Sandrishta Sarvottama Vishwarupa Swataila Samsevaka Rogahartre Vatalayadhisha Namo Namaste Narayana 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 Mangalam Kosalendraya Mahaniya Gunahatmane Chakravarti Tanujaya Sarvabhaumaya Mangalam Mangalaumaskarindraya Mahaniya Gunatmane Anantara Magatage Shravananandadayine Shukashastra Swarupaya Parayana Paragacha Ramachandra Shrayakhyaya Samyamindraya Mangalam Kanchanadri Nibhangaya Vanchitartha Pradayine Anjana Bhagya Rupaya Anjaneyaya Mangalam Janaki Kanta Smaranam Jai Rama Rama Shri Sadguru Swaminaha Jai Anjaneya Swaminaha Jai Swasti Prajabhyah Paripadayantam Nyayena Margena Mahim Mahishaha Gobrahmanebhyah Shubhamastu Nityam Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu Kayena Vacha Manasa Indriyarva Buddhya Atmana Va Prakate Swabhavat Karomi Yadyat Sakadam Parasmi Narayanaeti Samarpayami Tvadiyam Vastu Govinda Tubhyameva Samarpaye Tena Tvadangrikamale Ratimme Echasashvatim Tvadiyam Vastu Rajendra Tubhyameva Samarpaye Tena Tvadangrikamale Ratimme Echasashvatim Yatakshara Padabrashtam Mahatna Heenam Tugadbhavet Tatsarvam Kshamyatam Deva Narayana Namostute Visarga Bindu Matrascha Padapada Ksharani Cha Nyunani Chatirikthani Kshamasva Purushottama Kshamasva Yadunandana Kshamasva Raghunandana Kshamasva Gurusattama Kshamasva Harisattama Yaggesha Chudagovinda Madhavananta Keshava Krishna Vishnu Rishikesha Vasudeva Namostute Shri Haraye Namaha Guru Ayurappa Sharanam Narayana Akila Guru Bhagavan Namaste Vasudeva Kamakshi Gurumurte Tvam Namami Kamakshi Guruvarya Paduke Sharanam